I think from my perspective, I was quite intrigued by the prospect of coming together with Roly, and I just love the idea that you can take an object and it can be manipulated and have its own life again. There's just layer upon layer upon layer of creativity. So, I don't think, we knew where this would go, but I think with any collaboration, it's never a wasted opportunity. It just isn't, and that's what's so exciting about collaborations, really. And especially when you're just right there, the two of you are meeting for the first time, you don't know what's going to happen. But definitely I agree that conversation was really quite crucial, and just sort of laying down the knowledge that it would be a sound-based exploration, and from that we would then build the picture.
The amount of detail, the amount of information there, when you're in a listening mode, it's just it's so different to melodic music. It's so different to the idea of composition. It's much more based on just exploring the kind of intricacies of the sound in the recordings, and really beautiful, kind of complex, from such a simple source, complex sounds.
And I think also the instruments such as the Waterphone or Timpani with little bowls or cymbals, whatever, on top of it, they kind of have a life of their own.
Yeah.
You never quite know what's going to come out of them. The basic idea of the instrument is going to produce gold sounds or high sounds or low sounds, but actually the resonance of the space that you're in, coupled with what technology can pick up, and then the magic of your artistry to then find that vocal point or the emotion or the suspense or the layering and so on. It's just like another dimension again to an already full picture, actually. And I think it extends our listening skills, and it makes us really almost become the sound. It's an experience whereby we have to pay attention, and that's really interesting, especially in today's mad world where it's bits of this, bits of that, and so on for a few seconds. So this you do need to pay attention to.
But also, from my point of view, working on things so slowly over such a long period of time, it's such a privilege to watch someone improvise because it's just so immediate. I mean, it just happens instantly, and there's no composition. I mean, you've got ideas about the tone, and things have their natural pace or whatever, but it's if we went back and listened through the recordings again now, there'd be just endless surprises. It's very difficult when something's not pre-planned. It has a completely organic shape. I've been doing this for 20 years, and the reasons behind it changed the whole time. And I think the sort of style of music that I've found myself in is slightly representative of that, in that it has no... We were talking earlier about function of music and where is your music in the world. This music has no real clearly defined function. It's just a kind of constant source of things that I'm interested in and things that I'm pursuing, sounds that I want to hear. So it's genuinely a sort of selfish quest to continually find interesting processes and sounds, because I'm equally intrigued in the technical side of it and just the art of listening. So an experience like today, I heard completely new sounds, and that's enough to energize me and keep me on to the next phase. And up until now, my life in music has always given me that kind of next thing. So, if I hadn't have done this session today and nothing interesting had happened for another few months, then probably I'd drift off. But that in music, that's never possible, because you always hear something and you think, oh, just one more. I'll just do one more recording or one more album or one more bit of sound design. And it just on and on you go for 20 years. I don't know. It's just, it's a kind of selfish curiosity.
I I think that's really interesting. I think why I'm a musician is probably for much the same reason. I feel that when I started timpani and percussion from the age of 12, it was about curiosity, the curiosity of a 12-year-old. And once I then decided to study music full time, I obviously wanted to be as good a percussion player as I could. And I found that that was obviously impossible. You were always nitpicking and weeding your garden, as it were. And then I wanted to be as good a musician as I possibly could. Well, that's a matter of interpretation. And then I thought, well, what is a musician? And a musician is someone who creates sound and makes emotion out of that sound, or sound picture, or sound story. And that then really allows you to think of yourself as a sound creator. So you're exploring sound. So you can have the most expensive drum or marimba or cymbal, or the least expensive drum, marimba or cymbal, or have a little toy or whatever it may be. And yet you still find the curiosity out of that object and make it into something. And I think that's what I find intriguing about being a musician, is that curiosity, and the fact that you can feed that curiosity to a 5-year-old or a 95-year-old. So it's completely connectable and adaptable and social.
I was really lucky when I was younger in that I had an uncle who was only a few years older than me that was really interested in collecting music in the early 80s. So he gave me, the Eno Ambient series on vinyl. They were kind of the first records that I had. And up until then, I'd only heard, music in little chunks. So the first time I heard music for airports or something like that, the idea that, you could have this 30-minute long space, that was definitely one of the revelatory moments. And then as soon as I was able to experience the club dance music scene, electronic music was the kind of driving force of the early part of my life. Sound system music. To me, it's a mystery. The question isn't what would intrigue me about music. The mystery is that it didn't intrigue everybody else. So especially when I was a teenager, the idea of, it was very difficult to remain in school when the alternative was going to clubs and exploring electronic music, because there was just no competition. It's the obvious path.
Well, my love of music, I suppose, came from how we used our social time at home. I'm a farmer's daughter, and so when we used to have power cuts and things like that, or relatives round to visit, we would sing traditional Scottish songs, or do Scottish country dancing, or recite Scottish poetry and things like that. Oh my goodness. I wouldn't mind having Björk there, for starters, and I wouldn't mind having Eminem there. Oh my goodness.
Well, it's funny that you choose two vocal artists, because I was thinking immediately the thing that springs to mind is a vocalist as well. But definitely someone who's as polar opposite to what I do as you are, because that's, for me, the real treat. Someone who does something that I can't do or wouldn't do is always the most exciting person to work with. But a vocalist who's got as a unique tone as like Björk or somebody like that is a good example, because the same with the way that you were treating the percussion instruments, you can't generate that sound any other way. So yeah, somebody is as polar opposite. I don't technically play an instrument. So if the idea was, you were going to play percussion and I was going to, I don't know, play a trumpet or just see what's lying around, then yeah, it's not possible. So when we spoke on the phone and talked about the idea of using the percussion as a kind of source, then I was very excited.